Yeah.
So there's no way you could say that there's only one God. Like, we don't know. Like, we don't know.
Bro, a woman should never argue.
Scientifically, how we don't know.
Bro, a woman should never argue.
Scientifically, how.
Hello.
I actually have brain damage due to my disability that has resulted in synesthesia, for instance.
Sorry. Hi, Manar. Welcome in.
Hey guys, nice to hear from you guys. I had a premise I would like to debate. I know it's kind of like a circle jerk right now. You guys are all atheists, so I wanted to come in as a as a religious person, maybe, and kind of disrupt the panel. Are you guys ready?
Go for it.
All right,
What have you
I'm
got for
actually
us?
preparing for a debate, so I think the premise is going to be the debate's premise, which is, does the Islamic God exist? And my argument is going to be that yes. And I guess my reasoning would be that I mean, the creator of the heavens would have certain criteria for it to be able to create these heavens and earths together. It's very difficult for a random number generator to be the creator of the heavens and earth, let alone be the...
Okay, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Slow down. So does the Islamic God exist? Do we have to start with Islamic God, or can we start with God? Is when you add an adjective like Islamic, that you're gonna be.
I don't think we can practice the Islamic God here, guys.
So I would think
whatever you guys are.
Does God exist? And then go to the why it would be Islamic if that's the argument you want to make.
Sure. If that's more comfortable, yeah, we'll do the does God exist? How about that?
So why do you think that God exists?
I believe that God exists because of many arguments. A scientific one would be the thermodynamics argument of the heat entropy. There has to be a creator. There has to be a beginning for this universe. The argument of the constant, just one more argument, maybe scientifically, the constant need for calibration for life. There's a reason no life exists anywhere else on the observable planets that we've observed on their exoplanets.
Let's just do
Okay, yeah.
These are God of the gaps arguments. In other words, because I don't know or science doesn't have the explanation for this natural phenomenon, therefore God exists. The problem with this type of arguments is they imply human scientific knowledge as an efficient standard for absolute truth. Although science is in fact the most reliable way to truth, substantial claims require substantial evidence, and a gap in science is not substantial scientific evidence. Okay, so a gap in science, something that we don't know, that doesn't mean is scientific evidence. Scientific evidence are the things we know, not the things we don't know. Okay, so especially, listen to my words now, especially when God of the gaps arguments have been already refuted countless times in history. Every scientific discovery implies a God of the gaps argument that now has been refuted. For example, for everything science has discovered, push back God the equal amount. In other words, we have billion things that we know. The score, everything so far, God was not required. So the score is 1 billion 0. What is your confidence that the next scientific question, the answer will be God did it? So the score will be 1 billion 1. What is your confidence? When you have a football team and you are already losing 1 billion 0, what is your confidence the next goal will be of this team and will be 1 billion 1? Simply by statistic, by probabilities, the score will be 1 billion 1 0, the next thing. Okay, so let me show you one example. With the smartest person of history, Newton. What was his first name? I forgot. So, God damn it, I forgot what his was. Anyway, Newton. Newton is required by many, including me, the smartest guy in all history. Okay. Newton, the British guy, the British scientist with the apple. Okay, so this guy, at some point, he explains how the planets moved. Perfectly, he explains everything. At the far end of his understanding, because he was a religious man, he said, I cannot understand why this planet does this weird move. He couldn't understand at the time. And then he said, that means that God exists. God did this planet to move in this way. We are talking about the smartest guy in history, and at the ends of his understanding, he implied God. Now we know that this movement is another physical phenomenon. Nowadays, scientists have already explained this movement. That Newton said God did that. Okay, so when we have countless examples like that in history, where people used God of the gaps arguments, and now we know these were wrong, what is your confidence that your God of the gaps argument will not be wrong in 10 years or in, I don't know, in 50 or 100 years? And that's why Ali Dawa, your friend, said this.
We were making science the guideline for the Quran to be accepted. This is nonsense. Yeah? We take the Quran, not science. To hell with science. Science changes tomorrow, today. Look, it might be that Andrew Tate came to Islam for the wrong reasons. But guess what? He may be staying in Islam for the right reasons. How? One of the reasons I accepted Islam was the scientific miracles. I'll be honest with you. And now we know that this whole scientific miracles was absolute nonsense, not in total. But guess what? Allah led me to Islam. One of the reasons was because of the scientific miracles. And guess what? Did I leave Islam when this whole scientific miracle thing got debunked? No, I stayed because I grew in faith. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran to the Bedouins. Don't say you have believed, but rather say you have submitted. They were Bedouin Arabs, and Allah says, because Iman hasn't entered your heart.
Okay, so Ali Dawa obviously doesn't understand epistemology. So, science is more reliable way to truth than religion or dogma. In fact, some might argue, including me, that dogma is the most unreliable way to truth that exists. Because it's kind of, you drive the evidence. Dogma is you accepting a set of beliefs without justification, and then with hindsight drive logic, evidence backwards to meet your presuppositions. In that sense, I don't need to wonder. I'm sure that religion and dogma in general is not just a reliable way to truth, it's detrimental to truth. It's a reliable way to delude yourself against truth. So, yet Ali Dawa implied that the Quran is more reliable than science. That's obviously not true. The reason Ali Dawa gave up with the scientific miracles, the scientific way to prove Islam, is because of Hamza Georges. Hamza Georges, although started trying to prove Islam with science, even made a book about the miracle of embryology in the Quran. He changed his approach when he studied the philosophy of science. He studying the philosophy of science, he wrongly concluded that the Quran is beyond the investigative ability of science because he wrongly assumed the position that the epistemic weight of the Quran, the truth value of the Quran in other words, is larger than the epistemic weight of science. So in his mind, if the Quran contradicts science, science must be wrong. Because, he says, because science is changing and the Quran is eternal. Of course, that's not a sufficient explanation, but this is what he believes. And because Hamza Georges gave up with the scientific miracles, now all the Dai, Mohammed Hijab, Imran Hussein, Sobur Ahmed, and Ali Dawa, all of them gave up now, trying to prove Islam with science.
Actually could be possible. The ever-expanding universe is showing that you're creating dark matter, for example, out of matter or an antimatter. And
We know
you know
that
what I mean?
we know that more space is being created. We know that. We don't know how.
Yeah.
So there is space between space. That's what the expansion of space is. It basically is. It is additional space that is created.
Yeah, but isn't
between
that proof that
existing points
everything
of
could have been
space.
in that one thing at the moment of creation? Is just ever expanding ever since?
But
The
even if
fact
it
you're
does,
saying
that doesn't
could
prove somebody made it.
is a loss. Yeah, I mean, it could have been created
He stumbled.
prior to the rapid expansion. It could have been created. It could have been created by someone in another universe. It could have
I can't
been
do this, guys. These
happenstance.
guys are
It
too
could
dumb
have
for
been
this, bro. I can't do it.
eternally
Simulation.
I can't
expansion,
do this.
contraction. We could be a smaller subset of a
I
much
can't do
larger
this. These
universe.
people
There's
are
lots
told.
of could be's, but none of it says there's no way to eliminate all of them and leave us with a God. I mean, it could have been a creator who started the whole thing, this extra dimensional being,
I
and
guess we
then
move
they
on to the next
ceased
argument.
existing right afterwards.
If you
So
guys are
there's nothing.
When you use science to prove something, you need to use the scientific method. The scientific method implies a rigorous methodological investigation of reality and an honest pursuit of truth. None of that you Dai possess. Following the Islamic etiquette, how you call that, the Islamic mindset, you don't care about truth, you care about polemics or apologetics. You don't value science, you just use it to present Islam attractive in your dawah. Okay, so the following is the response of your second law dynamics argument.
The universe might not be a closed system. Some argue that quantum mechanics, dark energy, or multiverse theories could allow for unknown energy sources. Inflation, theory, and Big Bang cosmology. The early universe had very low entropy due to cosmic inflation, which might not require a divine cause. Self-creation, hypotheses. Some physicists suggest the universe could emerge from quantum fluctuations without violating thermodynamic laws.
Now, unless you are going to solve these problems and win the Nobel Prize in physics, because this is what will happen if you solve these problems, then you need to give up with this argument. Okay, it's that simple. Unless you will now go solve these problems in a scientific way and go and receive $1 million and the Nobel Prize in physics, you should give up on this argument, because this argument was not meant, or you are being dishonest to the argument if you only use it in a debate like a soundbite. Okay.
Thing that rules that out. So
Okay.
it does not lead to a singular God that is still living.
So it seems like even if I prove that the universe had a moment of creation, it doesn't matter because you guys won't even believe that the actual creator or that thing, that entity that created that universe is actually God. So I guess, can we come at it from a
Because you're
different
calling it a
angle?
creation.
Right.
We call
Right.
it.
Yeah. No. You're right. You're right. It's because the thing doesn't imply if there is a creator. Okay.
Mhm.
It did not have to be sentient. It did not have to be
Wait, why?
something that. Why? Because it could have been there. There could have been a cosmos, like we could have popped out from another black hole, for example, that creates universe. It
How do you
could
know
have
that the
been
black hole didn't have intelligence?
an
What is he talking
unintentional
about? This is the
action, like a
problem with these
biological
presumptions. They don't know
function
what
of
they're
a
talking about. How do you know the black hole didn't have the
kind of
intelligence to
creature
shoot you out
or process.
to wherever it shot you?
So
What the hell?
it didn't have to be. A
How do you know the
sentient,
singularity didn't
intentional
have intelligence?
mind.
Calling it a creation, you put in your premise what you want to prove. It's a circular reasoning. Creation is a loaded word. Okay, you should have used the word origins, because creation implies a creator. So, it's a loaded word. Creation is a loaded word because it implies a creator. And it's a circular reasoning. When you say, who made this creation? You imply that a creator made the creation. You put in your premise what you want to prove. Okay?
Full being.
And also at the same point, there's nothing that says it was one specific God that created that first.
Well, no, we have to agree if it is.
Creation. No,
It could have been.
that's not-
It could have been
I don't know,
five that got together that only collectively.
Well, no,
they
I'll
had
tell
this
you the
power.
argument why it's only one. It's kind of like the Greek God argument. You see the gods creating chaos within their own creations. Like, basically, gods start competing with one another on creation and basically destroying one another's creations, is what you would see.
Yeah,
Or you would see chaos in the world, the chaos in the systems of the laws of the world, the naturistic laws of the world, and you don't see that.
You can potentially make a strong argument why, if God existed, he must be one because of necessity. In a type of contingency argument, the necessary being must be one because it represents the most fundamental reality. So, if something is to exist inevitably forever, it must be something simple. It's not probable to be like many. It must be very fundamental and very simple. But then again, Allah is not simple. Okay? Allah is not simple. He's not probable to be this type of fundamental reality.
Manar,
Why
let me
would we?
say one thing right quick. There's no way that any one human being can say that they understand the origin of creation.
Yeah.
So there's no way you could say that there's only one God. Like, we don't know. Like, we don't know.
Bro, a woman should never
Scientifically,
argue.
how we don't know.
Bro, a woman should never argue.
Scientifically,
This is a misogynist statement. Women should never argue that this person got from Islam. Islam is a misogynist cult, okay? And Islam made this person a bigot, a misogynist. Okay, now let me tell you why this is stupid. And the book that advise you to say these things is also stupid. Okay, did you got the implication? Okay. Okay, now let me tell you why this is stupid. First of all, because the merit of what is being said is irrespective of who is saying it. So when you say a woman should never argue, is stupid because a woman might say something interesting, something important. Okay, so women should never argue. That means that you don't care about truth, about essence. You care about who is saying it. Okay. If pigs, I'm not implying, obviously, okay, women are better than men, in my concern. Okay, most women are more intelligent than men. But now making an analogy, I'm not comparing women with animals. I'm just making an analogy to understand what I'm saying. If a pig had voice and said something interesting, this is still interesting, no matter who is saying it. Okay, so the book that advises you to be a misogynist is in error, in morality, and clear, is logically in error, my friend. It's very simple. Then, of course, there are millions, okay? There are hundreds of millions women more intelligent than me. There are billions more intelligent than you. So, yes, with this kind of statement, my friend, there are literally billions women that are more worth intellectually than you. When you make this type of outrageous statements, this statement, my friend, is of a crazy bigot. Okay. And believe it or not, in this video I was being kind on you. Believe it or not. Thank you very much.